Sorry about that. I thought someone was coming to the door, so I turned the mobile off. I got timid. I will go out, but I thought it was actually someone coming right to the door to knock or something or come in. So sorry about that. So I've lost the track, haven't I? Yes. So what is the point in keeping the frequency and vibration of the few remaining human beings at a very low level? I think personally that if the frequency and vibration of, I think I've pointed this out in other videos I'm just making, if that frequency and vibration, say, of real human beings, in other words, if I was jumping up and down right now and in a state of complete euphoria, and if I could extend that for a long period, I think that the few remaining other human beings that are still in the dark or that are being controlled by the Matrix, this would stop. And then you would have a kind of reversal of the reality in a funny kind of way. In other words, the Matrix would lose much of its control that it actually has over everyone, because the Matrix has already taken over. I don't think there is much doubt about that. That's my own observation because I see that. So it's not about stopping takeover. That has already happened. But to make other human beings aware of the takeover, that's really all I can say. What you can do about it after that is another thing. But I would think that it would still make human beings, even like myself and everyone, cooperate and help other human beings, as opposed to being individual and separate like we all are. And if it was a normal world, it wouldn't matter. We could be, even like myself, as I have often been, antisocial. And like I say, you can choose to be social at different times, but you might not want to. But now it's becoming like where you realise that your reality, you're losing your reality, or the reality that you want, a comfortable world for yourself to live in, is being taken or has been taken. So you can't just, so I know, well, I don't have a comfortable world to live in because the Matrix has taken over my life. So in order to get your life back, you have to make other human beings aware that they have been taken over, that technology has taken over their reality. The God entered in its minions and its disciples, which are technological and, are not, they're not the same as a real life human being, shall we say. They're a different, they're a different breed, if you want to know what if you say. I think there was a song called "We Are the New Breed." Well, they tell you these things in a lot of things. These things come to you once you wake up you start to realise that it's true, because the information comes to you in such a large amount that you can't deny it. Whereas a lot of real human beings get information, and even when they get a lot, they think it's just they think it's fairy tales. They don't think that it is all true. And even if they think some of it's true, they're like, well, it don't matter. Whereas if they realise that it was all true, then they'd realise that it does matter, because their reality will change, just as mine has changed. But see, it's easier for me because it's already changed for me, so I don't have much choice. But for some, while they're still playing you and keeping you a bit in the dark, it's easy to, be, what's that word, complacent, which is what we all want to be, because none of us want to be in this thing. Some people might enjoy it, I don't know. But, like I say, if your whole reality changes, you don't have much choice. But either way, I'm going to take the mobile and try to go outside if I can. And what is the purpose of showing noise? there may be none. But it's just to show that human beings are frequency and vibration, which as others have pointed out is sound and noise and negative. This is a negative destructive thing when you get too much noise and sound. So that's just showing that human beings are being suppressed this way with the noise and sound. It brings your mood down at the very least. And at the worst, these frequencies and things can be damaging at physical levels. Obviously, they're using different technologies. This is, we are living in a technologically controlled matrix where we don't understand technology, but technology is operating against us all the time because of the time. Some of us are aware of it because they've turned that technology up, like the sound, really loud to where you can't ignore it. At some point it becomes, overwhelming. That's... yes, I agree that you should just live your life. That's when the matrix came down on me, when I was like, yes, I think I can live my life a bit better now. I think I can relax and just appreciate the simple things because, I will avoid negative people. But you see, you can't avoid negative people if they're everywhere. You can avoid some psychopaths if you think that they're in a limited number. You say, I'm aware of that, so I can control that. I don't have to be taken over by it or fooled by it like I have been in the past. But, it's not even about that, because if you've got negative people everywhere or in large numbers coming into your reality without your invitation, but because of the numbers, you see, they control your mood, and they restrict you just by their presence. Now, you would probably say, ignore them. Yes, you do try to ignore them. I'm trying to just show this in a video, if I can, how hard it is to actually ignore them. And that even in ignoring them, yes, you might be, like today, I felt that I was not being brought down to the very rock bottom, shall we say. But in ignoring the matrix people, you almost have to ignore your surroundings totally. So you're not living in a way, because if you can't look around at like supposing you were in where you had nice scenery. You tried to go somewhere where it was more pleasant. But if you are surrounded, now I know that focus is an important thing. Yes, that you should be able to focus fairly strongly. People who are at a higher spiritual level than myself can do this, where they can focus much more on, I think, I'm just trying to imagine this myself because it doesn't happen very often, to where you can focus on something and almost ignore the negative that's around you. This, I think, depends on what the scenario is. But like I say, it's, if you put headphones on to ignore noise, supposing you were out and you wanted to take in the scenery, but there was negative noise frequencies, then some people put on the big headphones. I would think that is an alternative, and certainly a more viable one. I don't have those big headphones, but even if I did, yeah, I often do have reasons why I don't use things. But either way, you're still cutting out a certain amount of taking in the whole landscape, or the pleasantness of it. I don't know if I'm explaining this, because you have to restrict yourself in order to cope with the matrix. And yes, I get that, so maybe that's an essential thing to do at this time, because you really have to focus just on, can you just live your own life? Because you have to live your own life in order to bring up the frequency and vibration. But at the same time, because you're aware that it's all about the frequency and vibration, you have to limit your life a little bit, or cut out certain things in your life, or change your life, to where you can focus only on the good. I'm not explaining this right. That's what I'm trying to do, is show things at a practical level now, that's all. Is there any purpose to it? Maybe, maybe not. If it is a benefit to some people, then it has some purpose. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It serves a purpose to me because it gets it off my chest to some extent. And like some people have said to me, what else can you do? Well, that's an interesting point too. Some of the choices that we've been making and that we will make in order to, with the attitude of what else can you do, like whether it be to get, to bring those that are left that are in the dark, out of the dark to where they're aware, so they can survive and protect themselves in the matrix. But more importantly, not be totally taken over by the matrix, because once you're taken totally over, you're not meant to be taken over by a matrix, I wouldn't imagine. I don't think you're meant to stay in a matrix. Or you're meant to either change a matrix or get out of it somehow, I would imagine. Because it's not livable for a real human being. It's only livable for matrix people who are, I wonder if it's even good for them. But there again, I don't know, because they are often possessed. So I would imagine, don't understand this enough. I understand it, but I haven't seen. You have to see things. Seeing is believing, as I say. So most of what I say is what I've actually seen. So that's why I believe it. But other things you believe, because although you haven't seen it, it's like the possession. You see it. You know that it's so, but you don't see the real being. You don't see the full reality of it. But you know it's true, because you know that you're not dealing with a real human being, if you know what I mean. I didn't put that well. So I'm trying to show it at a practical level, and then those that know, and those that don't have something to go on to where they can fill in the rest for themselves, to either say it is what is really happening, and that it's something that is credible, or they can dismiss it. I say dismiss it at your own peril, because I'm a very skeptical person. I have not been spiritual most of my life. I've only believed in what I saw with my own eyes. But I believe it now because I see it with my own eyes. I should be able to see more. I think that's another thing too. I've said this before from the beginning, that human beings, I think we're in a very limited domain. But we're limited in this domain. In this earth, in other words. And that's deliberate, so that we don't see things. Because if we saw things just clearly, I wouldn't be making a video. There would be no need to. It'd be game over for the Matrix. And that is why they do all this, I think. When I say game over for them, because it would mean that they can no longer take over all the real humans. Because once humans are aware of it, if all were aware of it, maybe they could still make your life very unpleasant, but they're still not going to get that for indefinite time. They're not going to. Also, one of the main reasons too is like there is the element of human beings don't need a lot to raise their frequency and vibration. So it's largely because we're very separate, very isolated, as has been pointed out, and I know that's my case. So therefore, it becomes very difficult to raise your mood when you know that you are surrounded completely by negativeness in every person and in your surroundings, and that you can't, there's so much of it. It's like the odds are against it. If it was a little bit, you probably could get on top of it. And, this also varies from person to person, because some of us are not... but some of us are not. But also, I would go back to that movie that I mentioned, but I'm going to be quiet now because I'm going to go out the door, because I can't concentrate on going outside and talking about the other things as well. Some people might prefer it if I talk about the spiritual kind of things, or that. I get that. So now that I'm showing silly little details, but that is the reality a lot more, because it's a frequency vibration battle. And so is there any point in showing it? What is the point of the videos, as was pointed out to me? Well, look, will it make things less if you show something? Will it drive people away to where they hide more? It doesn't change the matrix, but it does matter if you're a real human being, because if you can lessen what you see, that brings your mood down. In other words, if you go outside and you think, and you can breathe for a minute and don't see a lot of people around or a lot of cars around, things that shouldn't be there, that are negative. Now, okay, so some people might say, can you imagine that they're not there, or that they're insignificant and don't matter? Even if you adopt this attitude, because it is a physical reality, if it's right in front of you or very close to you, it is still, because human beings have the senses. You're not given the senses for nothing. It's just that we're in an artificial matrix where your senses at this time are being bombarded with what you know to be negative, what you know is aggressive and not a benefit for you. And human beings, because they are frequency vibration beings, they're not meant to be in that environment, and there's not too many real human beings that feel comfortable if they think everything is against them. That takes a very powerful, strong human being. Even the Matrix people, they are very dominant and appear to be strong and powerful, but they actually are largely strong and powerful only through their support and through their numbers. Individually, if they were isolated the same way that real human beings are being separated from their own kind, shall we say, they would be a lot weaker. As that movie that I talked about a fair while ago was making that point. Even weak human beings like myself are still stronger than a matrix person. Only because matrix people are largely psychopathic, and so therefore what they project is all false. So even a weak human being, what they do have is still real, whereas there's no reality to the matrix human beings. So they actually are a facade of strength. But because they do have vast numbers and support, They are a force to be reckoned with from a human being's point of view. You know, I don't know if I explain these things well. I probably don't, but I'm going outside anyway. You know, is it pointless? I look at it as just sharing, you know, a very difficult situation. But if you are aware of this and it doesn't benefit you, you know, don't waste your time listening, because I get that. In fact, you know, I understand that perfectly. And yes, you do wonder if you're making the right choice even in making a video, because it could well be that you know, I have considered this myself in the past, which is why I never, until now, and this was only recently because I saw others doing it, you know, and I thought, hey, also I thought maybe, just maybe, it might lessen things a bit, because the Matrix does like to stay undercover to a certain extent. But it is very much the end time. So, you know, and like I say, if what is all around you is in collusion and collaboration, you know, it's not like, you know, if I say something that there's going to be anyone close to me that is human that is actually going to listen and therefore change their way of thinking or realise that they're in a matrix. No, it's not going to be like that. If there were other humans close by, or if they listened to the video and thought, oh yeah, that might matter. I don't know what I'm talking about. Whereas, in other words, if you are surrounded by a matrix to some extent, there is no point. You know, because, you know, as I've said before, it's but maybe some people that listen, because there was that, you know, not everyone that listens to my videos would agree with everything or see a whole matrix. And even I might be missing some things. You know, I would imagine that could be so, whereas others would agree totally on a total matrix and would be aware of that. And some people even aware of more things than me. And others, I don't know. Are there some that just find this world strange but fascinating, and they're trying to figure it out? Well, that's another thing too. I don't know. You know, that will, you know, it's different for me, because you know, when the matrix comes right down on you, as it has come down on some people at this time, you know, that is because some people are senders and some people are receivers, shall we say. As was pointed out a year and a half ago by someone that was listening to my videos. And some people's wires are no good. So in other words, all human beings should be senders and receivers to one another, but some people just can't do it very well anymore. Why that is, I don't know. Probably because of the suppression of their body, just as mine is now being suppressed. I was aware of this, and that's why it was suppressed 3.5 years ago. Because while the matrix has you in the dark and has full control over you, then even if you are a reasonable sender, you're only going to be sending very little, because you don't know anything, and you're also not your mood is not ever really very high, shall we say, whatever. Also, I think that at this time, this is just me surmising. I could be very wrong. I don't think that in the past, even if, say, I was had a day where I felt okay, right, or had a good day, right, it may not have mattered so much, whereas maybe it matters more now. So, I'm guessing that, but I could be wrong about that too. And so therefore the matrix has had to come down very hard and very heavy on real human beings who will send positive frequency and vibration to the few remaining real human beings that are now left in the matrix. And then they will realize things. Because the high frequency, I think, automatically makes human beings at a level where they understand things more and know things more and recognise things more. They're not clouded over like we've all been. They're not going to buy into the matrix anymore. They're going to open their eyes and see what is really in front of them. Because everything really is there to some extent. It's just that we don't see it. We see it the matrix way of seeing things, which is understandable because the matrix is very overwhelming, and also there's no reason to assume that there's two ways of looking at everything. It's only when you realise that you're surrounded by a negative matrix or negative people everywhere that you do then see things different. You do open your eyes to a negative reality. This is a negative reality. This is a matrix. The only reason it's still going is because there are humans left in it, I would imagine. Or when I say going, I don't even know if that's true, but humans won't want to live in a negative matrix. It's not livable for a human being. It is hell for a human being. So if you want to look at it that way, human beings have to be aware that they are in a negative matrix or in hell in order to not let the God entity and its minions have their reality, or to keep it, or to make it worse. I don't know if I'm explaining this very well. Can't believe I'm making these videos, to be honest. To have to be so dramatic, I would never have thought this would be even a remote possibility. But anyway, I'm going to go outside and see. It's very quiet. It's very quiet, but my legs are very sore. You see, the matrix, that's what I'm just trying to make this point, is that at this time the matrix will get you one way or another. So in some respects, some people are right, like what does it prove by showing a bit or even a lot of noise? What does it matter if you show patrolling? Because, like it's quiet at the moment, even though I'm going to go out the door just out of curiosity, But, there are negative frequencies coming into the place anyway, so that is a controlling aspect, because if you feel pain in your body, even if it's not to where you're incapacitated, it's still disturbing, it still brings your mood down. And just the awareness too, you have to be able to, if you're more spiritual, you'd probably be able to override that, to say, well, look, it doesn't matter, my body's not important. Well, see, I would beg to differ on those points. But yes, you do need to have that mindset, because otherwise the matrix is taking over and bringing you down. It's very difficult because you need to have a pain-free body and a functioning mobile body in order to live in the matrix, or to live to how you want to live. So the secret of surviving in a matrix is to raise your frequency and vibration while under the influence of extreme suppression and limitation. That is not an easy thing for anyone to do, especially a human being like myself that's always been, that only thought there was the physical, and that, like I say, can you enjoy a walk if you feel exhausted, if your body has pain? It's hard. You can do it, but you're not going to be raising that frequency and vibration very much. No. Not unless you are at a very high spiritual level. And if you can't raise your frequency and vibration, you will not get to that higher level. See how it's a bit of a catch-22? You know that saying catch-22, which, it goes around in a... I can't explain that, but it kind of means that, you see what I was saying? Like that one affects the other. If you are able to raise your mood, just put simply, if you're able to raise your mood, that's what I would say, you will be at a higher spiritual level automatically. You will become more aware of things. You will realise things more. You'll not be affected by the negative so much. But in order to get to that level, you have to raise the frequency and vibration. But the frequency and vibration is, you're not able to do that. Some people maybe can, if maybe from early on they had faith and a bit more, I would say that. I'm only guessing that. But if you're like myself, where you just basically not really ever considered anything beyond the physical and believing what... I think I'll just go outside. I'm losing it here. I'm not making sense. If nothing happens, that's okay. Actually, it'd be good if nothing does happen. I shall try to get the phone. Sorry about that. Very hard to keep my face in full. In the past, you'd say, does it matter? Well, it does matter this way because the few human beings that are aware of many other things in this reality now, or even the symbolism that I've mentioned, when I became aware of it, if you are not part of that symbolism, you don't want to be shown doing accidental symbolism, because if I didn't know myself, or if I expect someone else to say, oh, I'm a human being and I am not part of the matrix or don't want to be part of the matrix. Actually, you are part of the matrix because the matrix has taken over. But you don't want to be. You're not comfortable with that. You don't agree with its anti-life way of doing everything. If your only indications of what is real and isn't is because of information where you're told that people throw up symbolism and stuff like this, and then someone like myself is doing it accidentally, someone will look and say, well, she's one of those that pretends to be anti-matrix but is really part of the matrix, because that's how the game is played now. That's how good the game is being played by the matrix God entity and its minions and disciples and followers or whatever. Because it is the end, they've got most, as I said before, most bases covered, from the smallest to the highest. The highest ones are easy to pick. The lowest ones, no, not so easy to pick. And, that's for those that are very in tune with what the reality really is. But, it's still, it makes it harder for them, though, to find their own kind. There we go. I'm going to turn the mobile round and look what we have. Putty's there waiting, as usual. But I'll open the door, and straight away you see a light on the street. That is a car. That is a car down the street, see, shining its lights. Can you see that? This is normal for a matrix street or for my street, where you come out and there is a car lurking in the distance with its lights on. It's not even in the distance, it's only a few houses down. But this is normal. And this is like you'd see in an old movie. You know, this is like you would see in an old movie. I'm just going to go up here to show you an old movie. You know, an old movie. This is like an old movie. This is like in an old movie where, you know, like in an old movie where you'd have like, how shall I say, where someone wants to, you know, intimidate you and show you that they're watching you all the time. But they don't actually come and touch you, but they will just sit in their car and you know they're there because you see the same car. Well, these ones are even more obvious because they, you know, in order to draw because you don't know who they really are, whereas in the old movie they would be people that you actually knew, that maybe they thought you'd done the dirty on them or something, so they're going to watch you all the time until they get you. It's like intimidation, but they want to stop you from, say, maybe going to someone else for help or going to the authorities or something, you know, like in the old movies. So they would lurk around showing that you're being watched, to show you that you mustn't make a wrong move, you know. But in this matrix, you know, in this matrix, because I don't know the people that are in the car, and because I actually haven't done anything to them, but they're part of the matrix, because the matrix is against real humans at this time. So therefore, if they were just sitting in their car but didn't have their lights on, I probably wouldn't even know they were there. I would just think it was a car. So the purpose is to show, see with the lights on, see how the lights are still on? And they're actually quite bright and almost intimidating for a human. It's only the one car. But of course every car in the street is a matrix car though. If they were all with their lights on in the street, you'd think you'd gone into, it would be so obvious. Whereas like if someone else comes along here right now, right? Supposing someone comes along and I say to them, look, that car is intimidating me by standing there with its lights on. They'd say, oh, you're silly. They're just people probably doing something in their car. And but this happens all the time. And this also did not happen very much in the past. You know, that's what I'm saying. You know, like if you come out every day and every night and always saw lights lurking in the distance on a street, see, they're still there. They'll stay there for quite a while. That's, I'm just raving and ranting here, I know, but, oh, the light just went opposite in the house opposite too. See, we're just going to go on to all this silly stuff again tonight, but the light in the house opposite just went off. That's to distract me so that I turn the mobile round away from this car, which probably I should because, oh, it's actually cold here. I'm waiting on a matrix plane, but I don't think we're going to get any tonight at all. None at all. But we do have the moon up there, but I don't know if that'll come out. Probably not. It's not a full moon, it's only a half. It's no good. There was a rather good sun. I'll show you that car in a second, how they'll stay there. Oh, here's the cat coming. This is the other cat. That's a distraction too. There we are, Mr. Cat. And there we have Big Boy Cat inside. He's already taken up his position. I might try and let him out, actually, because he will sit on my seat and take my seat. I just changed the cover because I don't like the cat sitting on my seat. I'm giving you all my personal details. What has that cat gone inside for? Oh, gosh. I've got to watch these cats. Oh, and the dogs there too. This is just to sidetrack from the video. But as you can see, that car is still there with its lights on. Is it still coming out? Is it coming out on the video? There it is, still there with its lights. I think I've seen that car before too. They have those funny lights. They're more different. They're more fancy. Come on, big boy, come on out. Oh, I've got the cats out, thank goodness. Thank goodness I've got the cats out. Gee, it is cold out here tonight. The Matrix God entity has sent a cold front. Yes, we'll just stand there with our lights on. Is that coming out or not? As if to say, you know, whenever you come out, you never feel that you're on your own. They're going now. Okay, they've finally got... See, that is the purpose of the video for anyone who's asked, is to make them leave. That car has went, and it's making a bit of an angry noise as it goes too, because it's not too happy at being intimidated, because it's Now see how there's all these lights. I'm going to show you. All these lights on those cars, and yet the cars do not actually have lights on, or do they? There's all lights on those cars. I'm freezing out here. I don't think I can do this. See how there is all those lights? And here we have the car coming back. It's not going to be outdone. It's going to pull in and come round. So it's the same car. I said, you can't do that. We own your street, and we are the Matrix people, and we run everything. See how it's double back round? I don't know if I've got that in. I'm sorry if I jilted the mobile. I'm no good at this filming. No good at all. We have the Matrix people next door, and I say that honestly because I think that they are all a collaborative effort. Because they feel fearful if they don't join in with the Matrix, I think too. That's assuming they're even real. I don't know that. I wonder. I really don't know, to be honest. You do wonder. Their behaviours are not real. And their personalities have always been on the very... despite great acting, you know that underneath you're not dealing with... you're dealing with acting. I've realised this. I've realised it for many a year, but I thought it just didn't matter. Because I know that in this world there's a certain amount of pretense, etc. But, I'll hold this mobile a bit better. It's very cold out here. The God entity has sent a cold front. So I think they call it a cold front. At least they used to on the weather report. That means, because this is actually spring now, and yet I'm actually very cold here, and today the wind was really a cold wind. It wasn't a warm wind like we should be getting in spring. That is to make me uncomfortable, and also to prevent me from making the video outside too, I would imagine, because I'm actually... It's one thing to be in a Matrix, surrounded by Matrix cars, etc. I don't know if you can prove anything by looking at cars. I certainly got rid of that car, didn't I, though, by filming? Because, look, there's none coming back on the street after that. See, maybe the point is just for me to clear it, but because it's only clearing it temporarily. It's only clearing it for while I'm making the video. Can't videotape everything all the time. And I'm cold out here anyway, but so that's another point. And no planes, cars gone. Putty is sitting here. Putty is here. Oh dear. I don't know if Putty's coming out because there's not much light here. I think that I'm going inside. Oh, because it's really freezing. Oh dear, I am very, very, very cold. See how there's light bouncing off? Sometimes you'll get light bouncing off a lot of the cars. Not down there. It's actually, look how quiet it is. That's unusual. Not a car coming in. Not a car pulling out. And, yeah, we've got playing possum tonight, so I might fold up. As soon as I fold up, there'll probably be a car come down the street. But that's just the way of it. Because, that is another problem, as I've said before, with the Matrix, is that, the Matrix knows what you're doing. So, it will play possum, and it is playing possum tonight. But then again, it knows I'm freezing and uncomfortable anyway, so that's its main purpose anyway, is to just keep human beings at a suppressed low level. That's the sole purpose of it, because we don't really merit all this attention otherwise, because we're not really doing very much, you see, so that's the point, So I'm folding up because I'm cold, but also the Matrix is not showing any cars even. But that car did leave. Whereas normally they don't leave. So that's another point. But either way, that's it.